People close for police.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's session. So today with us is Tatiana Velcer-Družovec, my colleague here at the University of Maribor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, where she is a full professor and a researcher. She also is the head of the Data Technology Laboratory. And her research focuses on cybersecurity, databases, cultural and human factors of IT, and intercultural communication. She has participated in many national and international projects, including Horizon 2020, as well as Erasmus Plus initiatives, and remains also active in Athena, Impact, COIL, and BIP activities. Her bibliography includes over 800 publications, and she has organized or contributed to many international conferences, earning also the title of Congress Ambassador of Slovenia. So Tatiana, I will share your slides and then the floor is yours. Just a second.
Thank you, Sasha, for the introduction, and especially, as I said, thank you to share the slides for me. I don't want to have new troubles on my side, so I was asking for support. I'm honest. Today, actually, it's my privilege to finish the impact tract on diversity and inclusion. We have many interesting talks so far. Last week, Milich was with us from European universities, working group dealing with diversity and inclusion. My talk today is entitled Intercultural Competences for Inclusion and Diversity. And it might be some of you that you took part on some of my lectures or activities will be probably surprised when the next slides are coming on, that I'm starting with something what is already known from my previous talks, but with different point of view. So the intercultural competencies, we know that this is very important, that all the teachers we needed, that we can have some challenges about that in the classroom as well as online. But let's see how I'm trying to put it into the frame of inclusion and diversity. Sasha, please, next slide. Thank you. This is just the title, so we can go to the content on the next slide. I will do or go forward with a short introduction dealing with intercultural competencies, some definitions in the connections with diversity and inclusion, and then this typical content about the culture, about the shock, about the awareness, about the stereotypes, but deeply connected with the diversity and inclusion. And I will try to look from these 2 points of view on them. So to have a different view, despite that there are definitions as a kind of the way what to follow, but with the different point on. On the second part of the content, I still put it some things about the models, if you can go further. And then I'm also adding also the good practices, where I expect that we will do actually work together, that you will be able to share also your point of view, that we will have here some presentations of good practices connected to the Erasmus Plus program, projects, mobility, COIL, BIP activities, and everything what is connected to that. Let's start with the introduction or going further with the introduction on this next slide. I mentioned already that the competencies, intercultural competencies, belongs to soft skills competencies that became more and more important. Myself, as it was clear in the introduction, I'm coming from the technical environment. Basically, I'm electrical engineer who did it then the master and PhD in informatics. And I was far away from the intercultural competencies for many years, as long as I was not involved in the project where those soft skills became crucial for working with students, preparing them for mobility or for practical experiences in the companies in the different factories. This brings me so far that I recognize that even that I'm working in completely different field, during that time I was mostly involved into the databases from the teaching point of view as well as from research. And I start to recognize that the competencies that I gathered through that project in the field of the intercultural communication has actually a sense for my technical background, or better to say, to the teaching, to the things that I developed during that time. So that I had the opportunity to include those soft skills into the teaching of completely technical lectures, like the course of the databases. Sasha presented me before. She said Tatiana Wilcer-Družovec. I believe that on the slide I skipped the Družovec because I'm so much used to use just my main name. But in the countries like the Spain, the two family names are completely something normal. José Luis Sanchez de la Rosa is one of my colleagues from Spain. And of course, there are two family names as well. He used to be married. Is this one family name of his wife? Or is this some other solution? In Slovenian law, it is the decision of the couple by the marriage what to do. Either one or another. Even that the history teach us that usually people took over, so actually women took over the man's family name. It's according to the law possible one or another solution or combine the names. So if we have the combination of names, we have a problem immediately, because in Spain this could be also the case, but traditionally Luis Sanchez de la Rosa means Sanchez and de la Rosa are two family names coming from father side or mother side. They could have even more family names, like 3 or 4 or 5, depends when they start to drop the family names, usually on the women's side. And this is all the science in some way at the end. Why I explaining that? Because I want just for the second jump back to the databases. If I have to do the database about the, I don't know, students, for example, I have to be aware what the family name that has more names means. What is meaning if the given name has also more names. And this is something what the technical part of education do not teach you usually, because it belongs to the soft skills. And this was for me something like a big step forward in learning experiences, intercultural competencies, and try to include it in all the teaching and all the lectures. So if we are looking to the inclusion and diversity more from this culture point of view, we are coming to the following two definitions. That inclusion is a sense of belonging or being involved with others, as well as of including others in our activities. If I would go back to the example before, means that all the data that I have, I'm trying to include. And what is included, I try to find out why it is needed. So we have, with the word inclusion and diversity, the similar situation as we have it with the culture, where it's a broader list of informations presenting that topic. If I'm going for a moment, just formal also to the definition of diversity, it's dealing with practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientation, etc. So we can see that this that the inclusion and diversity, if we're coming to it from the intercultural point of view, that they are very close to each other. If we are going to the next slide, we will see that I try actually to connect diversity to some of the topics that were mentioned there. So identity, a person's subjective experience of himself or herself in relation to the world. Own identity is actually a starting point to be either diverse, either be included in the community in which we are working and dealing. Gender identity is just more specified and entitled social roles established for the sex, while ethnic identity derived from a sense of belonging to or an identification with an ethnic group. So those identities are more. It could be connected, we could call it, might be even food identity. We have the vegetarian, we have the vegan, we have those that eating every kind of food, or those that are not eating the seafood, and so on and so far. So we are then by the consuming food different, but how we can be then concluded in the community in which we are living. I don't know if in other, or better to say in your surrounding, this is also happening, but usually I have experience in Slovenia that quite often when we have a party or just a meal, and we are aware that we have the vegetarian and we are not serving them separately, then usually earlier non-vegetarian became so during that meal the vegetarian, because they took away most of the food that is actually, for example, prepared for the vegetarian. So identity we could also change, not from the meal to the meal. This was just an example. But because of the changes of our mind, our point of view on the world, whatever else. So we, through the identity, we intensively have to deal with inclusion and diversity. And similar is happening for us when we are teaching. namely we have each student has her own identity in some way that could influence also our work. And we have to take into account how to include them, how to deal with their diversity that are not necessarily physical one or psychological one, but they could deal with also, as I mentioned before, a food. Again, one case from Slovenia. We had, I believe that this was just a few months ago, but time is running so fast that maybe I'm wrong, that in the primary schools, there were some issues about the selection of the food for the children who belong to other religions and according to the religious reasons are not eating um, some food. That is also to solve that problem, recognize the diversity and solve it in the sense of including solutions to the whole community. Let's go further and discuss some cases later on when we are coming to the good practices. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention also the cultural identity, which is already partially connected to the before mentioned. It's social identity derived from a person's identification with a perceived acceptance into a cultural group. And why I mentioned in the introduction at the last part the communication. Communication is a process which people use shared for verbal or non-verbal codes, systems and media to exchange information in a particular cultural context. So communication could be in the cultural context, is connected to the identity, and then we have the communication discussing the diversity and inclusion and solving the possible problems as I presented before in some of the examples. Let's go to the quite well-known part, I believe, for some listeners, where I'm trying now also present some of the problems. I will not discuss the problems itself, different languages connected to different identities, connected to the different cultures, and where is here the diversity and inclusion. Diversity because those languages are different, mostly not understandable to each other, or in some cases they are closer. Of course, I have in my mind that there is no knowledge of the additional language. And inclusion is that then the part which is very important, because from the language point of view, if the people do not understand the language, it is hard to include them into the schooling system, for example. Again, a home example. Slovenia is more or less with 2 million people, one nationality country, mostly Slovenian, but we have two official minorities, the Italian one and the Hungarian one. And we have then some strong groups that are living in some parts of Slovenia. These are I'm not sure in the English word. For that reason, I will use maybe a little bit incorrect word, but in that sense that everyone will understand. And this diversity and inclusion is coming already through the word, the gypsies. There is the problem. The children has to go to the school, but not necessarily understand before they are schooling the Slovenian language because it's not used at home. And this is then dealing to the problems. So how to involve all those people with the knowledge of other languages into the schooling system language, for example. We have these problems with refugees. We had these problems also by some economical migrants and so on. So problem of languages is also the problem of inclusion and diversity. Let's have a look what is the next problem on the next slide. Behavioral patterns. Yeah, some we shake the hands, the others are putting the kisses on the cheeks. The third are trying to give the business cards on the proper way. Also here we have a big diversity. What means the inclusion? From my point of view, that you accept the behavioral patterns of the others, and if you have no problem because of some other reasons, own identity, ethical identity, whatever, that you try to accept or later on explain how it is, because it's not necessary that we know what to do with that. Let's go further to the next slide. Again, from the point of view of diversity and inclusion. Formulation of concepts and sentences. I mentioned that I'm coming from electrical engineering and dealing now with soft skills, with international and intercultural communication. The concepts of formulation, the concepts of understanding are again diverse, different. An engineer has more algorithmic way of thinking, else maybe somebody coming from the sociology, medicine, or whatever. And this cause then also the problems in the communication. And communication we connect strongly also to identity and especially inclusion and diversity. And then the communication could lead us to misunderstanding. I believe that misunderstanding we have already on the next slide, where we have a case of technical problem, so development of the bicycle, but the communicating of requirements could be problematic. Why? Exactly because of the structure of thinking that I have it before. The engineer will describe something on one way, while somebody else, I don't know, from the community, from the city, who is involved because those bicycles, for example, should be used by the citizens to traveling from point A to the point B, could have completely different opinion. How to solve the problems? I have few slides that not necessarily really showing the inclusion and diversity, but let's try to see if these have it. Let's go to the next slide. Icons. Yeah, penguins. Okay. So the icons in different countries, in different cultures, are showing us the diversity and are set down on what is in our surrounding. In Slovenia, we do not have penguins. So this solution would be not giving the right inclusion of the environment into solving one of the problems that we mentioned before. Let's have a further look to see what we can do with some other icons. I believe the next one are coming from the digital world, from using the different tools that could support us in communicating, on presenting, and so on. Yes, of course, they are diverse because they are showing different. But its inclusion in everyday life of people, it's maybe more difficult. Not for the young who used them and they were born with them, but what about their grandparents or grandparents? Would they understand the icons? It is possible solution, but not necessarily the right solution. That means that by the diversity and inclusion, we have to be even more open-minded and try to find the way that everyone is happy at the end. Let's have a look if we have some more solutions on the next slide. No, I just took two of them. We found so far on that everything is connected to the culture, because we are talking and discussing actually the point of view of inclusion and diversity through the intercultural competences. And I collected, just to remind all of us, some of the definitions. Culture, first of all, is a very familiar word and is used to the diverse range of the meanings. According to definitions, is behavior, what we discussed already, linguistic, what we also discussed, styles as well of communication, we presented that as well as patterns of thinking and beliefs, if we just summarize the last 4 slides. What all is also the culture, and where additionally we can recognize this diversity and inclusion will be seen from the next slide. I used here some definitions from some given authors. At the end of the presentation, I have also the list of references, so you will be able then to find this. But I will just go on that last one. Culture is a creative meaning-making process constantly being produced and reproduced by multiple groups. So multiple groups means diversity. It is constantly being produced and reproduced. We try to include everything together, and means that this is a creativity process that is going from the day to the day, which is also supporting us, helping us to go to the new approaches. Don't forget what we have seen before, that in the case of the digitalization and digital environment, we are coming to new diversities, and we are coming to new sort of inclusion that is going then in that case for a kind of digital identity, if I may say. Let's have one more look to what is the culture, and then proceed further with our topics. This is one of my favorite definitions, also because it was published and is published, I believe, now already. It's available, the 5th or the 6th edition of the book written by 3 ladies coming from different cultures, Liu, Volchis, and Galois, French, Slovenian, and Chinese. The book is entitled Introducing Intercultural Communication, and it's published by Sage. They wrote the definition that the culture is particular way of life for a group of people comprising the deposit of knowledge, experience, beliefs, values, traditions, religions, notion of time, roles, spatial relations, world views, material objects, and geographical territory. Even that there at the end is and geographical territory, we could still add some components or some identities, because behind each of those is the identity or diverse group of understanding time, for example, time in business world is understand on the different way as the time in the African village. Means we have diversity, but if these two words, these two words, I mean the business word and the African word from the village somehow come together, then, of course, we have to deal with the problem with inclusion that we have to solve and find it out as well. In Slovenian, we have one joke about two merchants traveling to Africa. They were selling shoes. And the first one sent to the company the telegram, sorry, I'm on the wrong place. No one is wearing shoes, so we have no chance to sell here something. I'm coming back home. While the other one was sending to his company the message, everyone is barefoot, so send me as much as possible because this is a huge market for us. So we can see diversity also on very different way, and also then the solution of the inclusions can be on a very different way. And as teachers and researchers, we have to deal with all this actually every day in the class. Experiences from already the childhood and during the educational process and later on in my teaching area or the time that I was involved in education and teaching, it was happening and it's always happening that two teachers will be like two merchants in Africa. One would see the work and attitude of the student very positively, while the other one may be not in that way. So the diversity in the points of view, and then to deal with that. This was quite often the case, as I said, and need also a lot of patience from the teacher side to really try to understand the diversity and find the right way for inclusion, what is also not always easy. Please, Sasha, next slide. Yeah, cultural shock. This is something what is the part of my classical teaching about the culture. But here I want to mention that cultural shock is actually connected to this diversity and accepting this diversity and to make them included in one or another way. Quite a decade ago, I believe, I had a student in this my course, International and Intercultural Communication. He was very active, interesting in many things. As a student that was on the master level, he was already working as a manager in one of the shops in Maribor from the international chain. And they were so interested in his work that they invited him to Vienna to take over the job there. And he was really proud on this. But when we came to the culture shock, and I was asking students, hey, do you have any experience of your own about the culture shock? He raised the hand, and I was expecting that he will tell something about, I don't know, Austria, close to Germany, close to the models, is this linear active model by the Lewis, punctual facts, and so on. But no, he said, yes, I have really bad experiences of our family holidays in Tunisia. And I said, what happened to you? Was there any accident or you were attacked or whatever. No, no, no. Actually, my family was very happy. I was the only unhappy person in this community because I had a strong culture shock already immediately after the first day. First day they came, they were settled down into the hotel, or better to say, to the resort, where he was actually not connected to the outside world of the culture and country where he was, actually Tunisia. The next day they went to the market, and already on the way, everyone wants something to tell him, or showing, or selling, or whatever. And he became really afraid of that. So it's just showing that the shock is also connecting to the diversity and how to include yourself, also because of this cultural shock, in some activities or some way or life or whatever. He finished his presentation actually with the words that after that day he didn't leave the resort at all anymore, and he was just looking and waiting when it will come the day that the family is going back home. While on the other side, where he did to do also with the diverse culture, but closer to his culture and his understanding, means Austria, he didn't have any problem. He moved then, so far that I know, to Vienna. I didn't see him for a very long time, but yes, uh, all these standard parts that we have to deal with them in the intercultural communication have the influence on or from diversity and inclusion. Let's go to the next slide that will just talk or go on the culture awareness. The culture shock, it's easier to deal if you're aware what are the differences, from where are coming, what and why we have the diversity, and how they involved us in inclusion, and what all this mean. Culture awareness is based on knowledge of the foreigner culture and the own culture, and this I could translate that inclusion is based on the knowledge of the diversity of diverse culture groups that help us then to solve the problem and found the right way for the inclusion. Let's see the next slide. I have to speed up a little bit, I see. But I did it a lot of the talk already by the last slide. So it will be much easier. From here, I will just say, I will just take with cross-cultural dialogue, so understanding the diversity, doing the good communication that we mentioned in the introduction, in the connection with diversity and inclusion. Let's see what further is waiting for us. Oh, stereotypes. I was a little bit in doubt, should I put this in? But if we are going immediately to the next slide, actually, no, it's okay to stay with that one. So for America, here is written fat. And okay, for Australia, ex-prisoners. So fat and prisoner are for sure not something what would be positive, and that the people would like to say, oh, I'm fat. Okay, fine, I can live with that. Maybe there are some people. Or my family has a prisoner 200 years ago in the tree. It's also something that we will probably not advertising. So by the stereotypes that are showing the diversity on the a little bit more how to say easy way, not necessarily be correct and complete it with the facts. They can actually offend it already the people, and they are presenting the diversity, but they are not so often presented the positive diversity. It's more going on the things that are not so positive for us, and we are then probably not so happy. If I'm going back to the prisoners, I just have a possibility to visit a prison in Australia, not because they would catch me by some unallowed processes, but because this is also on the UNESCO list in the city of Fremantle, something like 12-15 kilometers out of the Perth in the West Australia. And they build it up, the database, with all the prisoners that they were there, and the people can try to find their successor if somebody was sent to Australia from UK. So mostly this communication is possible, and it's taken like, okay, something interesting what they did additionally. But as I said, then is the question, if they found something, how they really might be feel in that. And going with the stereotype in this way, this negative part in some way, I believe also next slide will show us something. So Africa presented in one way, then the Russia with the bar and so on. Everything are diversities, not necessarily positive, while Finland Nokia is somehow positive, but they are really not producing nowadays anymore the mobile phones, just something very little, while once they were one of the leading on the world. So also through the stereotypes, we are learning the diversity and trying to find the appropriate way of inclusion, how to include all this. Let's go to the next topic, leave the stereotypes and see what all can also talk to our diversity and inclusion. I do not plan to stay with the models. They are just numbered here, and they are also few slides, but I will just selective presented some of the things. On maybe Sasha, you can go one more slide if I have correct in my mind. No, onwards. Because I just would like to see the picture. One more, please. Oh, sorry, I deleted that one. Let's go completely to the first one. I'm sorry for that. Iceberg. Iceberg is danger. This know nowadays everyone who watched the movie of Titanic or studying this tragedy and so on and so far. The problem was there is not enough seen over the water. Most of the things are under the water. And I believe that this is even more, how to say, more true for the diversity, because the diversity we are usually not presenting like on the plate, but it's even more hidden So we have to take even more energy about that. The Hofstede model, there was for sure also some diversity hidden, that the first survey of Hofstede didn't cover them. So first, then after the survey was done for the second time and was more oriented on Asia, they actually added two more categories, because the diversity that was coming from this part was before not included. And the model itself was not full, and it's also not showing how the people in the IBM are working together, if they are coming from different countries where this diversity can be recognized. Something similar we can see then later by the Lewis, but let's go now slide by slide to catch this part. We can go further. It's just a little bit illustration of what I was saying before. We will stop by the matrix a little bit, because the matrix is also showing us that actually we have, by the diversity, deal with the things that the different things has also something in common. If you, the diversity part was presented just for a very short time, but anyway, on the person at its identity and culture, influence, the nationality, maybe the ethnic group, the family, the education, and all those things then overlapped. And so we can be involved in really different diversities, and then all the inclusion is probably even more difficult. How to find the right way to cover all this. Or if I'm going to the teaching system, so we have diverse students, and we have to find through all those diverse students the right way how to lead them and how to teach them. Here we are with the Richard Lewis model, who said, okay, all the people are either linear active, reactive, and multi-active. But it's not so simple, because as multi-active person, at least my students judge me usually as a multi-active, but they said that, okay, they could recognize also some of the things that are more from the linear active part or even from the reactive part. And also Richard Lewis, who developed this model, then found out that actually they are, the people are not only on the lines of the triangle, but they could be also somewhere in the middle, because the diversities are making us what we are at the end. And from that point of view, the diversity is very important. Let's go to the next slide, Sasha, please. Yeah, here we have some parameters. There is one more slide with parameters, but we are not going now to them. But we can see that, for example, linear active are introvert as well as reactive. So on the base just of one category, I cannot say that somebody is linear active or reactive. So I cannot judge her diversity immediately on one of the parameters. I have to go through more parameters, and I have to deal with this overlapping that I mentioned before. You can have a look then to the slides, to these parameters, and you can try to find out about yourself, either you're linear active, multi-active, or reactive. Just show us, Sasha, the next slide. I believe it's going further with with that, or even not, we are already by the good practices. I was trying to present some good practices and experiences that I gained mostly with Erasmus program, Erasmus Plus program, depends how the development of the name went through, either through the mobility, either through the coils and bips, what we are mostly doing nowadays. I will try to be very short about one diversity and inclusion case that was presented to me by people from International Relations Office from the Turkey, probably quite a decade ago, for sure before the COVID. She was blind. She used the wheelchair. She didn't hear neither very well, I believe. Not so sure for that one, but the first two. And she want aspiring go to the mobility, and the parents support her, but only so long that they didn't heard that she wanted to go by herself. She was obvious diverse in many different points, and she has to be included then into the surrounding where she was traveling. She went to the Germany, and the university there was brave enough to accept her into the program, to give her all the support and make her inclusive member of the community of Erasmus students and their own students. This was more the case, not going in the way that I was presenting now everything. But anyway, it was an important case for me to make me thinking in different ways. I presented many cases during the talk itself. But maybe interesting is also that case. I don't know how much experience has somebody of you with traveling to Australia or with Australia itself. Not just the prisoners in the 50s, they have the camps where they put in the children who were born couples, the so-called white couples and aborigines, and they took them away. They did it even the experiment with them to showing their diversity and to educate them as servants in the houses and so on and so far. If you would like to know more about that, I'm proposing that you're watching the movie Rabbit Fence, where the story of three such girls is explaining living, actually getting into the camp, left the camp, and trying to go back home with all of this history. Why I'm presenting that? Because still, when the Olympic Games were in the Sydney, the Australian government who recognize the diversity, because there are people coming from very, very different countries and so on and so far. They accept them. They were dealing with that, but they didn't apologize to Aborigines. They did it then later on. And nowadays, no tourist tour, no conference, nothing almost is not starting if they are not saying that we are on the place of that and that Aboriginal community, and that we are, so they are thankful to their history, to everything what they given to nowadays communities to enable all those things to go further on with that. And this is now something what is for them normal. So the development of this diversity and finally inclusion came in different form. I do not have any more time to explain another case for those who want to immigrate to Australia because they have changed there also some rules and it's going to the diversity of languages. But maybe sometimes later. So my question to you is, what are your experiences? If Costas will allow 1 or 2 minutes more. But on the next slide is just the summary. I hope there are 2 slides of the summary. Please go to the next one. If there is there. Yes. So just because somebody is right doesn't mean that somebody is wrong. We just haven't seen life from the same side. We have this diversity and we have to live with them and include them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana, for the presentation. Please stop sharing your screen. I think it would be very nice to have this presentation as the first one, because set it up, all the frameworks and everything that has followed, but never is late. So questions, because we don't have time. We have like 4 minutes more.
I don't have questions, but I have
Please,
some disagreement, if I can say, because you said earlier that the university was brave enough to accept her, and I don't think brave is the right word. I think they were accepting. You don't need to be brave to accept the difference. You just need to be open-minded. That's in my.
Τελειώνω ένα meeting που έχω τώρα, σε βλέπω.
Okay.
Thanks, Osrat. You are right. The brave was not the right word. I was trying to find the right word, but in that moment, obvious I didn't find it. Open-minded, yes. But they were not experienced. They were just open-minded and saying like, if this is possible for her, it must be also possible for us. And I agree with you. My not so good English was fault for the wrong expression. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. Like you mentioned about tips to build cultural awareness. No, you are talking about cultural awareness and how important it is. But how you can build the cultural awareness without mobility?
Depends on in which country we are a little bit. Of course, with the mobility, this is the easiest way. With also virtual exchange like we have in the coils where the students are coming together from different fields from different languages, countries, cultures, and so on and so far. Everything is going. So if we have to deal with multinational countries, then this awareness can be taught daily. Because the people are coming from different surroundings. Even the cases are Australia, United States, also all those countries in Europe that they have a lot of immigrants from the previous colonies like France and so on. So then you can learn this already inside your country. But even in the country like Slovenia, which is small, but we used to have already from the Yugoslav times also a lot of economics immigrants we were part of the multinational country, so it was easy to learn. But what to nowadays? Slovenia is quite strong also on the dialects. Language is a part of everything as well, and also through these through such small things, I believe it's possible to learn. Even if the students are doing some work together, belonging to some different fields of expertise, they could learn awareness through that in the way how they are thinking or how it is. And I have to agree with you. Yeah, it was planned also somewhere at the beginning. I don't know where this was getting lost at the end, but finally, then I anyway decided to make it like a kind of the summary, or to point on the things that maybe we experienced, but we didn't have the answers before, and that this could be the answers at the end of the story.
Thank you. And I have a last question, because I have to go to another meeting. What is the balance in order to keep your identity or to adapt to an identity to the place that we are visiting? So, for example, I'm a Greek and I'm visiting, let's say, like Slovenia. How when I'm visiting a place, I should adapt to the habits and the culture of the place that I am. But at the same time, I'm Greek, and probably, the people in Slovenia, they would like to see my Greek identity. So what is your advice to the students when they are moving abroad? How Slovenians and how much Greeks they should behave when you are visiting a place?
I will use Oshrat's expression. They have to be open-minded. They have to try to understand what is Greeks, how the Greeks react, and on the other side to see if there is some Greek in them or if there is some Slovenian in you. Actually, the visits in the mobility, if they are not going at least for one semester or the whole year, cannot work with acculturization, because acculturization is dealing with these problems. Either we are integrated, either we forget on our culture. But I would say open-minded, be aware of the differences, and try to connect both cultures, try to take the best from both sides, and to see where these bring you.
Thank you. I suspect that, I have to say that we don't have more time in order to continue our discussions, 10 minutes past the hour. I would like to thank Tatiana. I would like to thank Tatiana and Sasha for organizing, this last, I would say, activity of impact until the next ones. And I would like to thank all of you. Some of you, you are very committed to this, let's say, session, to join us and support our activity. I don't have anything else to say. I would like to wish you a happy weekend and see you soon. All right. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.